Hi, everyone, and welcome to Partnering with Youth, so we ask the right questions. I'm so happy to be here with you all today. My name is Alicia Boyer, and I'm one of the recruitment and outreach coordinators with the Colorado School of Public Health. And in today's presentation, I'm so excited to have a youth panel and some of the staff from Inside Out Youth Services joining me. So I wanted to kick us off before we jump into our youth panel with just some background on the Healthy Kids Colorado survey, and hopefully that'll set the stage for the questions to come. So first, what is the Healthy Kids Colorado survey if you're not familiar with it? So it is our state's only comprehensive survey on the health and well-being of young people in Colorado. Very expansive, covers topics from physical activity and nutrition, to mental health, to sexual health, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But the purpose really is to understand youth health and the factors that support youth in making healthy choices. Collect data, of course, first at a school level, but report it back at the school level, district level, regional level by health statistic region, and then at the state level. And we really use this to understand the different factors that are going on within communities and how we can best support youth and meet them where they're at. So a little bit about our methodology, just so you can understand how the survey is administered and how we collect this data. So first, we have schools that are randomly selected across the state. And then within schools, either the entire school can participate, or we have classrooms that are randomly selected. And we do both of these in order to make sure that we are reliable data, but then also we do this to protect student and school confidentiality and anonymity. So from the data that we collect, we make sure all of it is aggregated in order to, again, protect that anonymity of students. And then we also will suppress data if there's any, if the response options come through in a way in which we feel like anonymity and confidentiality can't be compromised. And to dive a little bit more into those topics that we cover in the Healthy Kids Colorado survey, we have protective factors. So we do jump into things such as trusted adults, school climate, community involvement, all the things that you're hearing lots about during this conference. And then we also dive into the health behaviors like substance use, safety and violence, nutrition, physical activity, sexual health, and I have on the slide it says high school only, but this is a thing that is shifting in 2021 that I will talk a little bit more about. And then things like social emotional indicators, which include depression, suicide, bullying. So very comprehensive, and we do like to ask from all of these buckets to really paint a more complete picture of all of the factors that are, again, influencing youth health, both risk and protective. So really what we're going to be focusing on in this part of the presentation, and then the youth panel will get a little bit into this a little bit, is instrument refinement. And how do we make sure that we are asking questions on the survey that are relevant to our young people and that we're actually hitting the mark and making sure we're meeting them where they're at. So with the Healthy Kids Colorado survey, we do refine our instruments between administrations and a little bit more of this process past year. And the why is really to make sure that we can make a meaningful change in youth lives, and we need to do this by asking the right questions and also in the right ways. So the way we went about modifying the instrument this past cycle to prepare for this upcoming administration in the fall of 2021 is that late last year, we submitted, or we held an open call for proposals to add new questions to the survey. And really, this was an open call, and we heard from youth-led coalitions and teachers. We had teachers submit applications on behalf of their students, hearing feedback from them from participating in the survey in the past, some things that they would like to see different on the survey. We heard from school administrators, different nonprofits, the parents submit applications, and also local public health departments. So a wide variety. And from the applications that we received a lot of feedback on including more expansive response options for sexual orientation and gender identity questions. This is an area that our team also wholeheartedly agreed, and I can say as someone who has been with this team since I was a grad student and I would help clean the survey booklets that we used to hand out. This is something that we've seen for a few cycles as being an area that's been dated and that has left students from feeling seen and from feeling like our survey is inclusive. So we wholeheartedly agreed. And then we also received many proposals to broaden the spectrum of our sexual violence questions. This came from a lot of different directions with an idea of and lens of prevention. And also, students feel more seen when they have, when they're asked directly about their experiences that they're having and knowing that someone cares and cares enough to ask. So a little bit more about the how, getting a little bit into the nitty-gritty details. So a big one is that we decoupled from the CDC's youth risk behavior survey. So we still participate so that we can have some additional representation, but kind of extracted it from our Healthy Kids Colorado survey in order to make some room for more questions and questions from the community that were more important. And then the biggest piece is we engaged youth. We conducted youth focus groups to get real-time recommendations on what to include as response options. We also asked them questions about basically how the question itself was worded and if it made sense, if it felt relevant, and all around their feelings around the direction we're heading. And then also we held other collaborative meetings to get some finalization around the questions and the way they were being asked. And really, I think that our team at the School of Public Health and our team at CDPHE really believes in is to continue to amplify youth voices, ask better questions, and further understand what you've experienced in Colorado. So that's the process of how we modify the instrument for this upcoming survey cycle. We do have new sexual orientation and gender identity questions. We're adding sexual health questions to the middle school survey. And really just trying to broaden the instrument and make it as expansive and relevant as it says above as possible. So one of the organizations that we partnered with for these focus groups was Inside Out Youth Services. And I'm going to transfer over to our live recording of the panel discussion that we were able to have with a few of the youth from Inside Out Youth Services. During our discussion, as I covered, we talked about our readability of the questions, response options, relevancy, all of those good things. But this organization is amazing at connecting with the community and having their youth voices leveraged in a variety of different contexts, whether it's different focus groups or providing input on different coalitions presenting in different facets. So we were very lucky to be able to partner with them in order to get really valuable input from the participants. So without further ado, I'm going to cut over to that and hope you all enjoy. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Darylyn. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm with Inside Out Youth Services in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we are here today with some young people. I am going to give a brief introduction of Inside Out, and then I will let the panel introduce themselves before we get started. So who are we at Inside Out? Our mission is to build power, access, and equity with LGBTQ+ young people, ages 13 to 24, through education, advocacy, community building, peer support, and leadership. We've been around since 1990, and we are the only drop-in center in El Paso County for LGBTQ+ young people. We provide an affirming space for youth and young adults, offering mental health resiliency, suicide prevention programs, safe dating and comprehensive sexuality education classes, support groups for trans and gender non-binary youth and parents, and social opportunities. All of our groups and services are free of charge, with the hope that any aid we provide will further the happiness and health of LGBTQ+ young people in El Paso County area. So I will let all of our young people introduce themselves and their pronouns, starting with Aries.
Hi, my name is Aries. I use he, they pronouns, and I'm a youth at Inside Out.
Hi, I'm Casper. My pronouns are he, they, and I'm also youth, but I'm a peer advisor actually at Inside Out.
Hello, my name is Cohen. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a youth at Inside Out.
Thank you all so much for joining us today and being willing to be a part of this panel. It means a ton. So without further ado, we'll jump into some questions specific to participating in focus groups and providing input to youth health and wellness initiatives. So since I'm from the team from the Healthy Kids Colorado survey, I will be speaking a little bit more to that, but kind of the first question is, have you heard of that survey? And if not, have you participated in other youth health and wellness surveys? What value do you find in participating in those, if any, and how could they be more valuable? So it's kind of a lot, but I'll let whoever wants to jump in first go.
Well, I haven't participated in this specific survey. My school district has done surveys around like bullying and mental health of students, and I think those are helpful to try and, because they're also anonymous, I'm pretty sure, so it lets people share their experiences without fear of like being, what's the word, without fear of like consequences, I guess. So it can help like pinpoint a problem if there is a lot of bullying at a specific district or school, and if there's like a really high rate of depression or something, the school can try and find a way to implement a solution to that.
So I've also not participated in specifically that survey, but my school has done a similar thing to what Casper School has done. And I think it definitely helps with showing like how the students feel in like their environment, and being able to give feedback and being like, hey, this is what we need like support on, this is where we need help, this is where we need you guys to like really lift us up and like put more effort in, rather than just like letting everything be, and then people end up getting like hurt or like depressed and not getting the help.
Any thoughts on that one? So our Healthy Kids Colorado team staff ran a focus group with some of your peers from Inside Out earlier in the spring to get feedback on existing and new questions on the survey. What are some of your thoughts on just focus groups in general and the process of having adults engage youth in big or impactful decisions like this?
I think that focus groups are super important, because I think that a lot of youth, like I know I feel this personally, I feel like we don't get involved in like conversations very often, and a lot of the times we don't get to like make decisions on, like help make decisions on decisions that will affect us the most. Like it's a lot of time just adults making decisions on things that are going to affect the youth, and the youth just get no say, and we just have to be like, okay, guess that's what happens now. And I think it's really important that we start involving youth more and more with those kinds of conversations, because otherwise the youth are never going to be able to get a say in what happens to them.
Yeah, I think it is important that the youth are like consulted and stuff, because I know I've been like dismissed before by an adult because I was younger, and there are certain things that I don't know about, but that doesn't mean that I don't have thoughts or I'm not intelligent around certain subjects. Like I can understand what I need to an extent. I might not understand how to do taxes, but I know that like some of my peers are struggling with anxiety and stuff, and they need help with that.
Anything else to add on that one? Thanks so much for the insight. So one of the questions, or a few of the areas that we are making modifications on the survey are specific to gender identity, sexual orientation, and sexual health. Can you tell me a little bit more about why it is important for you all to feel engaged and be able to help with statewide efforts like the Healthy Kids or other efforts that you know of, to have more representative options and then more comprehensive options around these topics?
I think it's super important because like myself, I'm a gender fluid non-binary person, and there's so many times I'm just looking at different surveys or different things that I have to fill out, and it's like, prefer not to say, or no, or other, and there's no like other option except for just something that they don't really care to hear. Like you have a boy, a girl, or whatever. And I think it's super important to be able to see representation of my identity on surveys like that, because I think it's important to see that like we have a voice, and like gender non-conforming youth like want to be able to like say who we are. And I think with sexuality too, like that also stands the same point, because like that it's a little bit broader of a spectrum, because there's usually more than like just like straight or gay, but like I think it's super important, especially with gender, to be able to be like, hey, let's, make sure everyone has the option to pick what represents them.
Yeah, I agree with Aries. I'm also gender fluid, and I have also seen a lot of things that are like, are you female? Are you male? Which are sexes, not genders, but that's a different conversation. And then there's just prefer not to say, which it's not that I prefer not to say, it's that you haven't given me an option for what I am. And I think a write-in option would be helpful too, for because obviously it might be hard to get everything, because there are a lot of different like sexualities and genders that people can identify themselves with. So a write-in option could give them an option to not have to scroll through a bunch of different like click options or have to write that out, but it still gives those people an option to like say what they are.
Any other thoughts? Great, thank you. Let me see which next one we've got. Okay, so the feedback that was provided in the focus group that your peers participated in played a very influential role in changing the survey for this upcoming administration. What are some of the ways that your school or your community can better support adolescents or LGBTQ plus students?
I believe that schools can maybe like take a survey to see people's sexuality or gender and like see if they're getting bullied or anything, and try to stop that bullying, and see if it's solely because of their sexuality or gender, or if it's for another reason, just stop it still.
I think having GSAs implemented too would be helpful for people. And also, if a survey like that happened, I think it would be helpful for it to be anonymous, just to help people share better.
I think it'd be really important in schools to try to have more gender neutral bathrooms, because it's really hard sometimes, especially for like gender fluid people. Like, I don't know if I look masculine enough to go in the men's restroom. I don't know if I look feminine enough to go into the women's restroom. So I'm just not going to go for the next 8 hours of the day until I get home at 4 p.m. and finally can. And then there's after school activities that can extend that time. Like, I think gender neutral bathrooms are one thing that are huge that like communities and schools need to implement to keep students safer and more like comfortable in their learning environment. Because if you're sitting there having to go to the bathroom the entire day, you're not going to be able to focus very much. but if there's no safe option for you, then it makes life.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I feel like dysphoric when I go into the women's bathroom, but then I feel self-conscious when I go into the men's bathroom. And this is like a sentiment that I've seen repeated between like many conversations between other trans youth in Inside Out. So it's not just us two either.
Definitely. And hearing both of you specifically speak about that, but then also the option of the survey. What do you think, or how do you think schools can better engage with you in order to hear these types of suggestions? Do you feel like there's currently a way to go about doing that, or do you feel like there's a better way to more effectively have your voice at the table?
I think making it known that the school and like the teachers and the staff are supportive of queer youth is super important, because personally at my school, I know there's one staff member that has like a little like LGBTQ plus ally like sticker outside their office, and that is one person out of like 70 staff members. And it's just really scary to like not know who's going to support you or who's going to like just completely dismiss you. So being able to know that you're listened to and that you're respected and like you know that you're going to be safe is really important.
I agree. And like, I think schools, if they were to get more supportive people, such as allies or people a part of the LGBTQ community, they could give the people who they are employing a survey and just see if they're LGBTQ or anything, and they can like announce that at school if they're allies or stuff, so people feel safer.
I think also I know there's usually guidance counselors at schools and like sort of a school therapist type thing. And I think it would be helpful to make sure that they're specifically trained in queer issues to help queer youth, since they have specific issues that tie in with things like anxiety and depression and other mental illnesses but they're specifically tailored to queer experiences. So I think having a guidance counselor that is aware of that and knows how to handle that and talk about it would be really helpful for the people who need it.
I completely second what Casper said. Like, knowing that like the person I'm talking to is going to understand what I'm talking about, like not just be able to like listen and like empathize, but really understand like what I'm going through and what I mean when I say what I mean to say is super important, because otherwise it feels like almost pointless to talk to them, because you're like, well, you're not going to understand and you're not going to really like try to understand, so I'm just going to not talk about it.
Definitely. And coming from the survey world, one of the things that we do think is important is turning feedback that we get actually into actionable change. I'm very curious about your all thoughts and feelings around how to be able to be engaged for that actionable change and not only have support and feel safe, but also feel like you're a part of the decisions being made. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions on how schools might better incorporate your voice into decision making?
Maybe if it's possible, like when there's like school board meetings and things like that beforehand, like members of like the staff, like the head of school and things like that, can like tell people, and then have like, I don't know, like some sort of box at the front office with slips to be like, this is an issue I want brought up, this is my opinion on it, this is how I feel. And like and then like it can be anonymous, or it could be like, if you're comfortable, like leave your name and like we can talk to you more about this, so that way it's something that's more like we're able to make decisions in our schools and be able to like actually make that happen, because otherwise like it's really hard to like just go up to like the dean of your school and be like, so I want you to talk about this and I need you to know about this, because people have classes and homework and no one has time to go sit down for an hour with the head of school just to talk about something when you need to be in class.
I think it also might be helpful because I know most schools have homerooms that are usually used for kids who need to catch up on homework and stuff. So it might be helpful before a school board meeting or something that the homerooms have a discussion around that, and the teacher in the classrooms can take what the students said to the school board meeting. Obviously, you only have to participate if you want to, because homeroom is also a time to do homework and stuff. So if you need to do that, you can prioritize homework, of course, but it just gives the students an option to have their voices be heard if they want them to be.
I think also like inviting students to come to school board meetings and like actually being there to like speak our truth and tell people what we need to tell them, like, because I've literally never heard of my school, like the school board meetings at my school. Like I think that like making them a more like community thing rather than just being like, okay, so all these really high members of like a board and some teachers are going to get together and talk about something and you guys are never going to know what they talk about, and then they're going to make big decisions that affect you at school. I think it's more important to be able to be like, hey, this school board meeting is this Friday at this time, like we want students there, we want to hear students, like things like that is super important as well.
Totally. Thank you. All great ideas. And that pretty much is all of the questions I had, but I know that you all, as being part of Inside Out and playing for advocate roles and doing many different awesome things within the community, would love to hear about either focus groups or experiences that you have within the community in which you are feeling like you are having a voice being heard. So we talked about options for getting your voice more on the table, but what is already going well?
I think the fact that Inside Out lets us be a part of things like this is super, super great, because there's quite a few like things similar to this that I've personally been able to be a part of through Inside Out, and it's been super helpful to like know that they are reaching out and like trying to get our voices heard, and knowing that people are hearing us and people understand that we want to be part of these conversations. It's not just we are sitting and hoping that people just read our thoughts. Like I think it's important that people realize that we're here and we're trying to say what we want to say, but with Inside Out being able to like be a catalyst almost for that is super great.
I know I've also been in a focus group around the language that Inside Out uses. I think like there were some BIPOC people there to discuss how the language they use around that. I obviously didn't participate in that conversation, but they had just a focus group on the kind of language they use and any feedback on that, if there was like more inclusive language for queer people, etc. So that was, I think that was a really good thing for them to do, since since the organization is tailored to youth, I think it's important for the youth to like be aware of the language that they use and have a say in it so they can be comfortable in the space.
Awesome. Helen, do you have any last thoughts as well?
No, I haven't really been in any focus groups, so I can't really say much about what they do and how to.
We'll talk about Inside Out though.
No worries at all. I'm so happy that you were able to be a part of this panel, and would love to have you in one of our next focus groups as well. And that really is all the questions that we had for this conference. I want to give you a massive thank you again for putting some insight into your experiences and also sharing with what we can be doing better. Darren, is anything else you want to add about Inside Out or opportunities before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say thank you to the young people that joined today. We are Inside Out because of you, right? And so it was really reassuring to hear that you're feeling affirmed at Inside Out, but it's more reassuring for myself to hear you handle yourselves here with so much experience, right? And knowledge. And I learned so much from young people, right? It's not just the reverse of adults knowing things, it's your voice. And so having y'all all participate and join in and knowing that this is going to be shared in a large conference setting and influencing many people is really inspiring. And I'm very proud of each and every one of you and proud that you represent Inside Out the way that you do. And thank you, Alicia. I appreciate it.